Chapter 25. The Final Choice. Although an apparently happy child, my son's world wasn't perfect, not by a long shot. Sure, he had a mother with a halo seemingly tucked into her apron strings, her laughter brightening every dark corner of his childhood. But across the living room I sat, his father, a man of sharp contradictions. To Andy, I was the sun and the storm. One minute my eyes twinkled with pride and affection. The next, clouds of anger rolled in without warning, leaving Andy emotionally hurt and scrambling to understand my emotional roller coaster. There were days when my silence was heavier than thunder, depression rolling over our house like a thick, unyielding fog, impossible for a young boy to make sense of. Brenda, steadfast and gentle, became Andy's anchor in these turbulent seas. She wrapped her son in quiet love, cushioning him from the sharp edges of a world she could never fully protect him from. But even the strongest anchors have their limits. There were ghosts in the Waggoner home, echoes of a time and place Andy would only learn about in hushed tones and sidelong glances. My PTSD from Vietnam, battle scars invisible but insistent, whispered through the house, unspoken and unresolved. Survivor guilt and depression hung in the air, a secret Brenda bore with quiet grace, hoping her love would be enough to heal what words could never touch. And so Andy grew up poised between sunshine and shadow, learning to read the weather in his father's face and seeking solace in his mother's embrace. The tapestry of his childhood, woven with threads of love, fear, and unanswered questions, would shape the man he was to become, resilient, empathetic, and always searching for a peace that seemed just out of reach. My one promise to myself, I hold dearly on to, is that I would never physically strike or hit Brenda or Andy. I never have, and I don't even recall spanking my son. The departure of Andy for college helped crack open something raw inside me, a vulnerability I'd kept buried under layers of daily routine and forced smiles. With him gone, the everyday grind lost its meaning. My purpose, already threadbare, seemed to vanish altogether. I was left wrestling with a restless energy I couldn't shake, a simmering anxiety that made the world feel sharper, louder, more hostile. Suddenly, every morning felt like wading through quicksand. My job, once a lifeline, turned into a prison sentence. Social gatherings became torture tests, each handshake and hollow laugh scraping against my nerves. Brenda, my anchor, was the only person who made sense in this new landscape, and the idea of shutting out the rest of the world, just the two of us against the noise, became almost intoxicating. But beneath all of that, something darker was bubbling. The old ghosts from Vietnam, the ones I'd managed to outrun for years, started clawing their way back. Nightmares twisted my sleep. Memories that should have dulled over time instead sharpened into accusations. PTSD wasn't content to lurk in the shadows anymore. It wanted the spotlight, and it wasn't going to let me forget what I'd left behind. The past demanded a reckoning, and the pressure inside me built to a fever pitch, threatening to explode with every breath I took. The inevitable day arrived when I finally released the war's haunting memories, and suddenly my entire world seemed to implode. I lost my job, and with it, nearly everything and everyone good in my life slipped away. I was never the social type. Friends were rare, especially the kind you could call in a crisis. My closest companions were my two brothers, anchors I desperately clung to throughout life, but even those bonds frayed under the weight of my actions. Whenever they reached out to help, I shut them out. In truth, I'd never truly left Vietnam. In many ways, I was still trapped there, still in country, fighting a war that refused to end. On a golden September afternoon, before the trees had even considered donning their autumn finery, I found myself gently rocking on my old porch swing. Our recent move to a rambling country home, 17 acres of untamed earth perched near the quiet town of Clayton, Illinois, just 20 miles northeast of Quincy, had left me with both sore muscles and a heart full of wonder. The morning was spent waging war on a jungle of wild grass. Me, my trusty tractor mower, and the steady drone of insects hinting that summer's curtain call was near. Now I claim my reward, solitude, a rare and precious thing. My loyal companions, Harley and Honey, barreled through the yard, their laughter in motion a striking counterpoint to the heavy silence weighing on my soul. Harley, our bear-sized chocolate lab, launched himself at Honey with all the subtlety of a linebacker. Honey, the yellow lab with brains and speed to burn, slipped his grip and shot toward the pond, her tail a banner of triumph. Harley thundered after her, the pair vanishing into their own world, a world where only the present mattered, and joy was the only rule. I pushed off with my toes, letting the porch swing do its slow, lazy arc, but inside my mind there was no peace. Vietnam and guilt gnawed at me, an ache that had settled into my bones. Worse still, I'd failed Brenda, the love of my life. I used to be the provider, the steadfast rock, but now she bore the weight, her smile unwavering, her spirit luminous. I felt like an anchor dragging her down, less a man, more a living shadow. Vietnam hadn't taken my life, but it had stolen my peace, trailing me home like a ghost only I could see, whispering threats that someday it would finish what it started. The darkness crept in with no warning, just as it always did. Suddenly I was back in the jungle, the sickly sweet stench of death thick in the air. I saw the bodies, broken and faceless, scattered along the trail. The air pressed in, humid and suffocating. That heavy final smell clung to my skin, made it hard to breathe. And always, Dan Wessler, his eyes fixed on me, wordless, asking, why me? My heart thundered, disorienting me. Porch swing or jungle? I lost all sense of place. All I knew was terror. Reality crashed back, and tears slid unhidden down my cheeks. I let them fall. Why bother to hide them? Should I cry until the pain dulled, or try to pull myself together? The walls seemed to close in, crushing what little resolve I had left. I didn't want to live like this. Useless to my family, trapped in guilt for surviving when others hadn't. Swiping at my eyes with my sleeve, I stumbled inside and reached for the phone. I needed to hear Brenda's voice, maybe for the last time. When she answered, the warmth in her tone was almost too much to bear, gentle as an angel's wing. Hi, Bren. It's me. I just wanted to talk a while. I hid the finality in my voice. Hi, Danny. What are you up to? Not much, honey bun. Finally finished mowing. Took me all morning. How about you? Busy. Month-end reports, you know how it goes. Are you keeping an eye on the dogs? Yeah, they're down at the pond. You'd better go get them, Danny. You know how Honey loves to wander and Harley will stick to her like glue. Don't worry, Bren. If they aren't here when you get home, they're probably at the neighbor's. You get them right now. Are you okay? Do you need anything? No, nothing else, Bren. I just wanted to say goodbye. Bye, Danny. I'll see you when I get home. Click. With a strange sense of resolve, I left the swing and walked inside to the bedroom, where my 9mm Ruger waited in the nightstand. The pistol was never left loaded, but I found myself sliding bullets into the magazine, hands trembling. Why bother with more than one, I muttered. In that same drawer sat our wedding album. I opened it to a photo of Brenda and me beaming at the altar. I pressed my lips to her image, whispered, I love you, and returned to the porch swing, the pistol unbearably heavy in my hand. Tears blurred my sight as I pressed the cold barrel to my mouth. At that very moment the phone rang, slicing through the silence. Startled, I wiped my face, struggling to find my voice. Hello? Hi, Dad. It's Andy. I'm off work and on my way over. Should be there in about 15 minutes. Can we talk? Sure, Andy. Come on over. I'll be waiting. Thanks, Dad. See you soon. Click. Nearly 2 decades ago, I stood at my lowest point. dangerously close to making a choice I can't bear to imagine now. Fast forward 25 years, and my life is anchored by a family whose love fills every corner of my heart, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and a legacy that gives my life meaning far beyond what I could have dreamed. How did I get here? I reached out. I walked through the doors of the Veterans Administration almost on a whim, and it changed the course of my life. With their support, I learned how to face the beast of PTSD and, more importantly, how to live again. Let's be honest, wars don't always end when the gunfire fades. For countless combat veterans, the most grueling battle begins on home soil. PTSD isn't just an acronym tossed around by doctors. It's a shadow that lingers, restless nights, a fuse that burns too short, a sense of isolation, even in a crowded room, and the heavy weight of guilt pressing down with questions like, why am I still here when so many aren't? If any of this sounds familiar, know this: you're not in this alone, even if it feels like you're carrying the world by yourself. If you're a combat veteran grappling with PTSD, let my story be your nudge. Seek help. Take that first step. If even one person reads my journey and finds the courage to reach out for support, to understand a loved one's silent struggle, or simply to offer a lifeline to someone in need, then this story has fulfilled its purpose. In doing so, you become a hero, not just in the eyes of others, but in your own as well. The next chapter is waiting, and you don't have to write it alone. Surviving the battle after the battle. Navigating PTSD as a combat veteran. Anger. When everything feels like a trigger. For many, anger is a mask for pain. Maybe you notice yourself snapping at loved ones, or feeling rage bubble up over small things. It's not weakness. It's your brain's way of trying to protect itself. Anger management isn't about stifling the feelings, but learning to steer them. Breathing exercises, movement, and talking to someone who gets it can make a real difference. Yes, even if you swore you'd never talk about it. The dark cloud of depression. Depression after combat isn't rare. It's a heavy weight that settles in quietly. You might feel numb, hopeless, or just tired of trying. Reaching out for help takes guts, but it's not surrender. It's an act of survival. Whether it's connecting with buddies, seeking professional counseling, or even finding solace in a hobby, small steps can start to clear that cloud. The war on sleep. Sleep should be an escape, but for many, it's a nightly battlefield. Nightmares, cold sweats, the relentless replaying of memories, these are all too common. Here's the good news. Treatments exist, from talk therapy and medication to mindfulness and guided relaxation. Seeking professional support for sleep disorders can help reclaim a few hours of peace. Antisocial behavior. When isolation feels safer. If the world feels too loud, too unpredictable, or too different from the one you knew, withdrawing might seem like the only option. But connection is a lifeline, even if it's just with one trusted friend or a fellow veteran who understands. Isolation might feel safe in the short term, but it tends to strengthen the grip of PTSD. Survivor's guilt. The weight. No one sees. Why am I here when they're not? It's a question that haunts many veterans. Survivor's guilt is real, and it cuts deep. Remember, your life still matters. Sometimes helping others, mentoring, volunteering, or simply being there for another veteran can be a powerful way to honor those who aren't here. Suicidal thoughts. When despair takes over. If you're feeling like there's no way out, please believe this. You are not alone, and help does exist. Reach out to the Veterans Crisis Line, to a friend, to a professional. It takes courage to fight on, and every day you do, you're proving yourself stronger than yesterday. The darkest moments don't last forever. There is a path through. The VA, not just an acronym, but a lifeline. The Veterans Administration is there for you. PTSD clinics, counseling, group therapy, medication management, and crisis lines are all tools you can use. The VA can be a gateway to finding other warriors who understand your fight and professionals who know how to help. One step forward. Battles leave scars, but they also forge resilience. Your service, your struggle, and your survival matter. Take the next step, even if it's just a small one. Reach out for help. Connect with someone who's walked this road, and know that your story isn't over. You've faced the worst and made it this far. Let's keep going together. Turning 75 is a milestone I never imagined I'd reach, especially with PTSD as my persistent shadow, an uninvited guest who long ago made itself at home. Over the years, I've tripped, fallen, and fumbled more times than I can possibly remember. Along the way, I've watched friendships slip away, felt the sting of family drifting apart, and made choices I wish I could rewrite. Yet let me be clear, I own my story. PTSD may walk beside me, but it does not carry the blame for every wrong turn. My decisions are mine alone, for better or worse. Even with the weight of the past, gratitude fills my heart. My faith has been the anchor in every storm, a steady beacon when the night felt endless. I can only bow my head in thanks to God for lifting me when I could not carry myself. To my beloved wife, Brenda, your unwavering love is the home I return to, no matter how far I wander. To my devoted son, his caring wife, and my beloved grandchildren and great-grandchildren, you are the light that chases away the darkness. My two brothers, the rest of my family, and steadfast friends, your presence has been the steady drumbeat, reminding me that I am never alone. And to my Marine brothers, with whom I stood shoulder to shoulder in Vietnam, there are no words deep enough to express my gratitude. The bond we forged in the crucible of war has shaped me in ways no one else could understand. Each of you has given me purpose and a reason to press on, no matter how heavy the burden. Thank you, all of you, for walking this road with me. Your love and loyalty have made this journey not only bearable, but truly worth the taking.
I can only imagine what it will be like when I walk by your side. I can only imagine what my eyes will see when your face is before me. I can only imagine